Go.
Life is going nowhere. Somebody help me. Yeah, I'm staying alive. I'm trying to stay alive. DanGryder. It's November 6, 2022. DTSB. Thanks for joining us. If you're in the chat room with us tonight, the live chat room, thanks for joining us. This is our weekly Sunday night update. Every 7 days, we have a series of fatal general aviation crashes, so I try to cover those every 7 days on this Sunday night premiere and go over those. In the last 7 days, fortunately, we've only had two, and that's really good. I'm going to go over both of those, but both of the two in the last 7 days were very significant, and I'm very saddened. This is a piece of the wreckage off of the Atlanta PDK crash. Max and Sharon Cohen lost their lives in this G58 Barron crash just a few days ago. I went to the crash site, and I'm going to talk about that mostly at the end of the video. This video is pretty much dedicated to that concept. I want you to know up front, I have thought long and hard about how to do this video. I mean no disrespect to the individuals or the Cohen family in this tragic loss of Max and Sharon and their dog Callie. However, there are some things that we need to talk about, because if you look at the tragedy of this crash, it's going to happen again if we don't talk about this. And I know I'm going to take some heat for this, but I'm going to tell you what Max did and why this is such an insane accident. And I'm not very happy. I'm not very happy with the entire thing. We're going to get into that at the very end, but I want you to know up front, I'm not setting out to be disrespectful to the Cohen family. That's not it at all. If anything, this is on us, the industry and the people who set up this scenario that allowed this to happen is probably what I'm most upset about. I hope you'll follow me through to the end of this video where I get into that. I've got actual footage from the crash scene. I've got all this stuff that I want to show you. And the ATC tape, the ATC radar plot, I'm going to tell you exactly what Max did and why he died at the very end. Let's look at last week's video, Crazy on You. Here's some numbers for you. Crazy on You was last week's video. It did 53,000 views in just 6 days. It got 486,000 minutes watched, which is okay. And we do these every 7 days. I just got done with the ride along. I had to ferry a Kit Fox from San Diego to Nashville, Tennessee. A fantastic journey. Learned a lot of stuff and shot some footage on that. I think that's going to make a very interesting ride along. That'll be my second ride along video. Not the entire thing, but there's some really important things that occurred, some scenarios that occurred on this for the brand new owner who inherited this new Kit Fox. So that's coming up. And then after that, I had to fly an RJ back out of Nashville to get back to Dallas, Texas to do AQP and coffee. And en route, I ran into this girl who was an anesthesiologist girl sitting next to me, and she and I struck up a conversation. She had never heard of the movie Airplane, but I got her to reenact this scene for me. I hope you remember this. It's really bumpy.
Yeah, it is. Are you nervous?
Yeah.
Is it your first time?
No, I've been nervous before. Okay, so AQP and coffee. We did a thing on Saturday morning in Dallas, Texas. My friends Mike and Joanne hosted me, let me spend the night out there. Had a great time. They fed me well. Everything was great. And while I was there, I ran into an old friend. Pete Sedian is now a DPE. I want you to know that I taught Pete to fly in the I would have said mid-'80s. Pete said it was towards the end of the 80s, but he had an interesting story, and I knew when I taught Pete something strange occurred on his private pilot check ride, but I could not remember the details. Here's the video of Pete and I together again for the first time in probably almost 30 years, and the story that Pete has to tell you about spot landings. Here with Pete Sedian. This is really cool. I'm in Dallas, Texas, Midlothian Airport. Pete Sedian is now a DPE, but I soloed Pete what year?
1989.
1989.
7.3 hours.
I was a new CFI. I got my initial CFI in the early 80s. Pete was one of the people that I soloed to Salem Springs, Arkansas. Now, you had a goal, and I remember this. You had a goal when we did your private pilot. I soloed you and we got you ready for private pilot. What was your goal? What did you want to do?
I wanted to land at the examiner's field with 40 hours, right at the absolute minimum.
40
Right
hours
on the
required. He wanted to time it out so his logbook had exactly 40.0 when he touched down at the airport to take his check ride. Now things didn't go. I thought you were a good pilot. You
So
did
did I.
well.
That was the best.
You did well. I didn't have. I mean, 40 is really skosh. Most guys end up at 55 to 60.
Yep.
Easily. You did it in 40, and you touch down, and you go to take this check ride with Examiner Bob Billingsley, and you came home with a pink slip. What happened?
I think he finally got tired of my characteristics. I'm on the downwind leg. The airport's right there off to my left. It's a little 152. And we've got to do an emergency landing. And so he pulls the power. And instead of landing at the downwind leg just off to my left, I pick a field right over there off to the right. The winds are right in my back. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to just land right over there with the wind into the field. And he said, "You're too much of an idiot to be a pilot. Let's call that.
In a time of crisis, you're on the downwind leg and you elected to hold heading and aim for an open field to make a downwind landing off field when you could have turned left and landed into the wind on the runway.
With an airport right there, yes.
What are you thinking?
I don't know. It's bad instruction, I guess. I don't know.
I remember you coming back from this check ride going, "I failed," and I was like, "What do you mean you failed?
Yes.
How could you, what did you fail?"
I don't know.
You failed the power off spot landing maneuver.
Power off emergency.
Power
Yeah.
off emergency. Are you still doing those to students today?
Oh, of course, absolutely. That's an important thing is to, when that engine shuts down, which I've had, you've got to take care of business and land the aircraft in the proper configuration and all that.
Should a pilot be able to lose an engine at any point and spot land the aircraft into the wind, either on an airport or off field? Should that be a basic requirement to continue flying?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal. You know, we just had the doctor in Nashville, Tennessee that crashed 10 days ago. Spot landing contest. He loses an engine. He crashed into a power line. He had tons of fields everywhere and he missed. He couldn't spot land his airplane into an open field. I think it's a huge problem. I think recurrent training, practice. Go out and practice this. Go up to 1,000 feet above the airport with your CFI and have him pull the power on you. Can you hit the numbers or not?
Yep.
It's the same thing that Pete failed his check ride on 40 years ago. We still got the same problem today. But now today, Pete is a DPE. I'm proud to say that I was at least a part of
Big part.
Pete's initial. I remember that story, and I couldn't remember all the details on it, but I remember there was definitely a story there. We both learned a lot. You got a pink slip out of the deal, but I think you learned something about power off landings that you're probably still imparting to your guys today.
Still do, and we do that with starting with the primary. All of our landings are power off, every one of them.
Yeah.
So if there ever happens that situation, you know, there's nothing to say that I'm going to guarantee that my landing is going to be where I need to be. Everybody makes a mistake.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I've got the training. My students have the training.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for taking time and
It's really
interrupting
good to see you.
Good to see you, man. It's totally awesome. And I had at least a tiny little piece in building this pilot. I'm
A big part.
really happy with this whole thing. So that was all really good. I got back from Dallas last night and made it to the crash scene early this morning, Sunday morning, for the Barron crash. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I've got a powered parachute story. This is a real quick clip. I want you to know that eventually in the near future, I'm going to start doing some powered parachute stuff. It's a fine community. I like the equipment and I like the people. I'm going to probably start doing some powered parachute stuff. Here's a clip because I formerly knew very little about it, but I've had a chance to be around the people and the equipment and actually go on board one of these things for a flight. I kind of like them. I'm thinking about it, and here's a powered parachute clip. I know you guys are airplane people, but here's a little inside track into who these people are and what they do and their powered parachute community. Kind of stayed up late last night playing guitars, but really good. And I got to fly in a powered parachute my first time ever. Now the sun's just coming up and these guys are already cranking engines and getting ready to go fly again. The powered parachutes are really actually pretty cool. I have not been around them much before, but they're actually pretty well built. They're kind of well built machines. They look pretty stout. Everything on them is rigged good, and I was amazed at the takeoff performance. These things kind of leap into the air. Morning.
Hey, how you doing?
Are you going flying?
Yes, sir.
Can I put you on camera?
Yes, I guess.
Little early morning flight?
Yes.
Oh yeah, isn't that cool?
We love it. We love it. Now we have one that leaves before the sun comes up, but we'll let him
Yeah.
meet up with him. You
Yeah.
know.
There's another powered parachute guy right there. That's totally awesome. I got to go in one yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, my first time ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who took you up?
Ben?
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
We'll be in.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
guys wearing your thermal gear out there?
Yeah. Semi. Not full blown.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Oklahoma. He's from Texas.
Okay. Y'all came in for this for
Yes.
just for the weekend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I'm very impressed. Everybody's got good gear and plays by the rules. It looks really safe, and the whole parachutes look amazingly safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Safest
your first
form of
time
flight.
yesterday, you said?
In a powered parachute, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Very
I
nice.
fly their airplanes and stuff. But,
Yeah. Nice.
I was very impressed. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They're really great aircraft. You know. So
Yeah. What's your wind limitation on how much wind can you hack before you scrub?
usually takeoff. I don't want more than about 15 mile-an-hour winds, but
But you can do 15.
oh yeah, yeah. But once you get up, now we can get up in more wind than that. It's just
Yeah.
takeoff. It's a little hairy.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, landing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate
See you later.
You going right now?
Yeah, we're going right now.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, I got a couple errors that I got to own up to. I published that there was an in-flight fire November 946 Romeo Sierra, the Bearhawk from last week. I got that clip showing the airplane on fire from a individual who swore that it was accurate, and I threw it on there at the very end because I had to get this thing up and on the air. Turns out that was not it. The airplane was not on fire. I apologize. The airplane hit the ground and did not burn. However, the interesting thing is that the individual in the front seat, Ron, was the owner of the airplane. He actually ended up outside the airplane. Here's a clip from NTSB telling us that one person departed the aircraft in flight and actually hit the tail in flight. I don't know how they can determine that from what they've seen so far, but here's NTSB telling us that.
Police tape surrounds the area where the amateur-built aircraft went down Saturday afternoon, killing both passengers on board.
Preliminary information we have is from witnesses indicating that the pilot of the aircraft departed the aircraft and impacted the tail of the airplane before the final impact.
So it's obviously a very strange crash. I don't have any more information on it at all, but we're going to be continuing to watch that Bearhawk experimental airplane. It was only a few years old. I don't understand anything about how that thing could have happened or what the actual scenario was. Let's go on and talk about the DA-42 in Dallas. I initially claimed that this one ran out of gas. Not true. It did not. However, it was pilot error. There's a pre-flight on this thing where you have to check the aux standby battery for enough voltage or enough something. It's in the flight manual. So the report came out, and this was a pilot who did not adhere to the flight manual requirements of pre-flight before he flew the airplane. When he went to put the gear down, it overloaded the electrical system, shut down both buses apparently, and both engines flamed out. That's what caused the dual engine flame out in Dallas, Texas. Nobody got hurt, but they did not run out of gas. They ran out of electrical power. They ran out of something. I couldn't feature that an airplane could end up that close to the airport and not make it to the airport unless they ran out of something. My apologies. My apologies. It was not fuel, but they did run out of electricity, and I'm sure there's going to be a closer investigation into how to pre-flight procedures for making sure that your aux, standby, bus, battery, however that thing works, has enough electrical power, charging capability, whatever you need, so that if you have a main bus failure, you can still allow the engines to run for at least 30 minutes. I think that would be a really good idea. Didn't happen in this case, and that's about all I know, but I'm going to be following that. My apologies to the individual who I said ran it out of gas. Didn't happen. He ran it out of electricity, and that's the only difference there. Let's go on. The NTSB preliminary on 655 Papa Mike, that's the Beach Sierra up in New Hampshire, came back, and sure enough, this is a failed RTO. Witnesses heard the engine not producing power on takeoff, long runway. They struggled into the air. They had ample opportunity to abort that takeoff, and they didn't do it. They got it into the air. They barely cleared the ridge, just like I said. It wouldn't fly, and they crashed it just beyond the ridge into that building. Big fireball. 2 guys died. This is an RTO. If your ship is not making proper power by the proper point, you have got to close the throttle and stop and go back and investigate. You have to. These guys had the opportunity not just once, but 2 or 3 times to stop. Even after they had it in the air, they had enough runway remaining. They could have closed the throttle and still landed on available remaining runway, and they'd be alive today. But they didn't do it. So that's the one in New Hampshire. 655 Papa Mike. It was October 21 when that one happened. Okay, so let's look at October data. October of this year, we had 19 fatals, 27 deaths in the month of October. Here's the data for that. And then in the last 7 days, here's the only 2 accidents that I want to talk about. The only 2 in the last 7 days. November 8-4 Romeo occurred on November 3. 65-year-old guy from Knoxville, Tennessee. He's a doctor flying this A36. Here's what he did. He's instrument rated, private pilot. He's flown into this airport many times, but this is a short runway. It does not have a precision approach. This is actually a circle to land approach. Here's the graphic for it here. Very high minimums on it. And this guy flew into the butt end of this cliff going up onto this runway. He was low. He was IFR and he was low, and he was probably much lower than he ever thought that he really was. I don't know if he had an altimeter problem or if he was just trying to cheat to get in, but the weather was definitely foggy, rainy, overcast. This was his second attempt. This is not an LPV, and this is not a straight-in DH approach with GPS guidance. This is a circle to land with about a 1,500-foot ceiling minimum on this. You got to have a lot of viz and a lot of ceiling to do this approach. He just didn't have it. Here's the impact point. Here's where we ended up short. Our deepest respects and condolences to this fine family. Another loss of a doctor and a bonanza in Knoxville, and totally senseless. Now, let's go on and talk about the Barron crash. Max Cohen was a dentist, 74 years old, his wife Sharon, their dog Callie, well-respected individuals in the community. It's October 31, 2022. Max Cohen and his wife Callie was coming back from Jekyll Island. It's a trip they'd made a lot of times. Max had a lot of flight time, a ton of flight time, but you can listen to the ATC tape, and we're going to do that next. Here's what Max did. He's in flight. It's hardcore IFR. He's listening to ATC, and they just tell him that of the 2 airplanes ahead of him, one made it in and one did not. It's about 100 overcast, visibility a quarter to a half, and missed. It's a low approach. Not that that matters when you're at 3,000 feet anyway, but Max was so far behind the airplane. This is a G58. Here's a picture of the airplane. Here's a picture of the panel. It's a G1000. Now, I want you to listen to what happens here. Max gets his altitude assignment out of 4 for 3,000, and he goes down to 3,000. Now, if I pulled the radar tape, Max actually did not capture 3,000. His autopilot did not auto capture 3,000. He went below 3,000, and at the time they're reading this back to him for his approach clearance, you hear this tone at the very end. That's the altitude alerter in the G1000. Let's listen to this.
Okay, left turn 2.0.
So now he's attempting to read this back, but in the process of reading back, he gets the tone. Now listen to the controller. He's going to tell him twice, 3,000 till established, 3,000 till established. That's because the controller has already seen that he has gone low.
Maintain 3,000 till established. 3,000, we're still down left runway 2 on left approach. 5,000 uniform.
He wants him back up at 3,000. In the process of this, Max has already disconnected the autopilot because he had to disconnect the autopilot to pull the airplane back up to 3,000. Now there goes a lot right there when you disconnect the autopilot in the weather. Now he's given left to 240 and clear for the approach, but he goes through the approach and things go downhill real quick. Now the autopilot's off, his magenta line is gone. He doesn't have a way for that autopilot to track the localizer, not the purple line, but he's supposed to be tracking the green line on the HSI. It's not doing it, and Max is hand flying He goes back up to the G1000 and he starts punching buttons like crazy. Not necessarily so much disoriented as furiously trying to punch buttons to get the picture back correct and an autopilot on and everything good again. In the process, the airplane is in a steep left-hand descending turn. Max thinks he's okay. Listen to the controller's clues here. Whenever a controller tells you wings level, that means they think that you're in trouble. Listen to this.
5 off uniform, maintain 3,000, when your wings level, fly heading 330 and 5. 330, fast now, and 3,000, 5 off uniform. 5 off uniform, you're descending again, check your altitude. Try to maintain wings level 3,000, so at 2,100. 5 off uniform, check your altitude immediately, 1,800, you can climb. 5 off uniform, the wind approach, low altitude alert, check your altitude. 5 off uniform, altimeter 3000.
Yes, the controller told him twice, wings level, wings level. He gave him a low altitude alert. Max never saw the ground. Let's go to the crash site. I'm going to show you what it looks like when we arrived at the crash site. I'm going to show you what this scene looks like at the crash site. This is some of the debris from the crash site. There's a ton of debris out there still today. I'm very disappointed in NTSB. A lot of material like this. This is an intake to the IO520. Max had the airplane almost 3 years. Most of Max's logbook, his pilot logbook, were out there strewn in a million pieces. I picked up a lot of it. I'm in the process of putting it all back together so I can determine how much flying Max had done. This is probably the only record that we have of Max's flight time right here, and it's all laying out there in the forest. I've got 99% of it, I believe, right here, and I'm in the process of taping it all back together. But there's a problem here. It's not just flight time. It's not just having a flight review. This is instrument competency. You have to actually be able to do this, and Max was not. Let's go to the crash scene and look what happens when we get out of the car and approach the scene and go out there. This is from this morning. Well, we're here at the cul-de-sac, and first thing I want to point out here is the mud in the cul-de-sac here, and here's a couple clues. Whenever you have a plane crash like this, they got to get stuff to it, so probably that set of tracks right there is going to take us to where we want to go. But if you can see, let's walk this way. Heavy equipment has definitely come in and out of here. This is fresh mud, so heavy equipment, and these tire tracks right here have come in and out of here. So I think we're just going to follow the path a couple hundred yards, probably right down to the crash site, and there's tracks right there. So I'll bet you they built this little path going this way. Let's go see if we can find this thing. This is one of the places they got equipment in and out of here to get. So this little road, this is a new road, so they probably just manufactured. This is all telltale signs of where people have been in the last few days right here. So this tree is probably the initial point of impact. I'm thinking steep left wing down and nose down. The earth took the brunt of it. Probably a wing or a nose or something hit right here, but I mean, look at the scarring all the way around this thing. But look at the flight path that you can see coming off of this tree. They're lined up here. There's this tree, then the next one, and then the one beyond that. The top of that tree is broken out. That tells me his descent angle was this. That's a 40-degree descent angle to end up here, and nothing else is broken around here. That's almost a knife edge, nose down. It hit right here. There's nothing else broken around here, and this is where all of our debris is. But spatial disorientation, Max never knew that he wasn't wings level. He thought he was climbing and doing fine because he was relying on his inner senses. There's nothing wrong with Max. He didn't have a heart attack or a stroke. There's nothing wrong with the equipment. He trusted his inner ear, and it led him astray. He was steep left wing down, nose down, and he didn't know it and he couldn't see it. And this is what happens to you. This is definitely it right here. So the most interesting thing out of this dig here today is how much of Max's logbook is here, which tells me his logbook was in the airplane, which tells me we're never going to know what his actual recency, currency, and training was, because probably nobody else has any records of what he flew. His pilot logbook, what I've been able to find of it is right here in my hand. Was Max recent and current and able instrument current? Was he instrument current? I kind of doubt it. I don't know if I'll be able to piece this logbook together. I kind of doubt it. But the point is, the logbook, his personal pilot logbook, is in this debris field, which means we're never going to be able to say yes or no on what his currency actually was. But by virtue of ATC recording and the flight path and this visual lesson here, it's pretty obvious there was some deficiency here. This is purely pilot error. This is lack of proficiency. It's amazing the amount of debris that is still here, all the airplane pieces still on the ground. This is definitely airplane piece with Velcro. I'm sorry to say this is human blood on this. The human body, when it hits the ground this hard, disintegrates. The human body is mostly fluid, and there's virtually nothing left on this. I'm very sorry that it ended this way, but I want you to know also that they never felt a thing. They never saw anything. They never felt anything. There was no pain involved for anyone. This hit the ground so hard and so fast, they never knew it. And this entire crash site right here for sure tells the story on the path on how this is spatial disorientation, and they were that bad disoriented, and Max was that not current, too fast, single pilot, unable to comply with ATC, monitor his altitude, get his speed slowed down, and capture the course. If you're not ready to go do this stuff, don't go do this, because this is what your human body is going to end up with right here. This is how you will end up being if you go try this.
All right, we'll expect the ILS 21 left straight in from Pittsburgh, Jet 65. They getting in there?
Well, we had one make it, one go around, so I'm going to bear and I'll be in front of you, so I'll let you know.
Appreciate it.
Flight Jet 346, sliding 240.
240, Flex 346.
Straight 5 Alpha uniform, 5 miles from Chan, turn left heading 240, maintain 3,000 until established, clear ILS, runway 2 our left.
Okay, left turn 2.0.
5 Alpha uniform, maintain 3,000 until established, 3,000, we're clear ILS, runway 2 on left approach.
5 Alpha uniform.
Pittsburgh Jet 65, please see the 180, then maintain 4,000.
All right, we'll slow it down to 180, down to 4,000, Pittsburgh Jet 65.
5 Alpha uniform, check your altitude immediately, check your altitude till 2,200. 5 Alpha uniform altimeter 3000, are you in the climb?
Yes, we are in the climb now. 5 Alpha uniform, we're going to go around and come back.
5 Alpha uniform, maintain 3,000, when your wings level, fly heading 330 and advise.
330, 5 now, and 3,000, 5 Alpha uniform.
Pittsburgh Jet 65 is going to maintain 4,000, clear direct 80.
Clear direct 80 down to 4,000, Pittsburgh Jet 65.
5 Alpha uniform, you're descending again, check your altitude. Try to maintain wings level 3,000, so at 2,100. 5 Alpha uniform, check your altitude immediately, 1,800, you can climb. 5 Alpha uniform, land approach, low altitude alert, check your altitude. 5 Alpha uniform, altimeter 3000.
So I get kind of fired up about this. This is an individual who should not have been there. He's 74 years old. Flying single pilot hardcore IMC is a big deal. He was too fast. He was behind the airplane. His radio calls were not standard. He was relying on the G1000 and the autopilot system in that airplane to save him. And when it went out the window, he was in deep trouble. He should have reverted to manual, basic flying, attitude flying, declare an emergency, get wings level, and maintain 3,000. The controller did try to help him the very best he can. Now, the problem I have is that we have a flight review that involves the word, everything else in aviation involves the word certification. If you're a AME, if you're an IA, if you're an engineer, if you're anything, your runway is certified. They use the words, I certify that this aircraft has been inspected in accordance with an annual inspection and has been found to be in airworthy condition. I certify. Somebody's got to put their name on the line and certify that airplane or that engine or that propeller or that avionics appliance. Someone has to certify it. What about the pilot? You know what it says for pilot? Under BFR here, it only says that you gave him a review. It doesn't say that I certify that he's competent. It just says that I gave him a review. 1 hour of flying and 1 hour of ground school doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter what you do. 1 hour of flight every 2 years and you don't have to certify. Max was not competent. Specifically, he was not competent in the IMC world, and we proved that. He's dead today because he was not up to the task. Who should have stopped Max? We should have stopped Max. There should be somebody who is signing off Max that he's competent and he's still up to the task and he can actually do it. Never happened. That procedure is not out there today. I'm not advocating government regulation and more government rules. I'm just saying if you're going to go out there and do this stuff and try to stay alive, I think it would be highly advantageous for you to take some extra training and learn what you're doing and learn to slow that airplane down and run that autopilot and do what you need to do so that you can actually do it. When the autopilot clicks off and you're hand flying, it's a whole new world and you're gonna bring this thing in. I am sorry to have to put that footage on there, and I'm sorry to have to even talk about this subject, but I'm pretty upset about the fact that people like this are allowed to fly and we don't do anything about it. We don't have a way to check. We don't even have a buddy system. Somebody should have said, hey, Max, shouldn't be doing this. You don't have it anymore. Wait and come back tomorrow day VFR. Get a safety pilot. Do something else, but don't launch in 100 obscured and try to bring this thing into PDK. Max almost hit a neighborhood. This area of North Atlanta where he hit was crazy busy. He got lucky. It hit in the middle of a woods. The only chunk of little woods out there within 30 miles is where that airplane impacted. It could have gone into a church, a school, children, buses, cars, shopping center. That airplane could have exploded out of the clouds into something. It could have gone anywhere. We got crazy lucky on the fact that it went into the woods and didn't hurt anything. And yes, I'm kind of fired up about this. I'd like to know what you think about it. I don't have a solution. I'm just telling you there are some people that should not be flying. There ought to be a checks and balances. If you're going to go out there and operate in the system above ordinary, average citizens who don't deserve to have their lives taken because of your incompetence, we should have a way of determining whether or not you're actually able to do this or not. We can't just keep sending everybody out there with a flight review. A 1 hour flight every 2 years is ridiculous. It's completely absurd. I got to get out of here. I want to remind you about my Airborne Animal Rescue. Here's my website for it. That helps both the animals and that helps me on our Airborne Animal Readiness project mostly. Right now, it's helping me with $1 or $2 in my travel stuff. The DC-3 is mostly flight ready, and long term going forward, that is what that process is for. I've used quite a bit of money buying accessories, spares, and parts for the DC-3 to make sure the DC-3 is on a flight ready status and can be used, and that whole process is looking really good. I think you're going to be excited because sometime in the next probably 90 days, we're going to do a Airborne Animal Rescue test flight with the DC-3. We're actually going to haul some dogs and do a test flight and videotape that and show how that whole thing works. So that's looking really good. I appreciate your support, Airborne Animal Rescue. If you got $1 or $2 to contribute towards my efforts on the road, I appreciate that. Zelle, PayPal, Venmo, or CashAPP, any one of them are totally safe, and I appreciate that. We're going to try to do this bluegrass song, Staying Alive. It's a Bee Gees song. I don't know if it can be done or not, but we're going to give it a stab. And I appreciate you guys hanging with us. It's been a fun evening here in the chat room with you, and I appreciate you just swinging by this live chat on Sunday evenings where we go over the previous fatal accidents from the previous 7 days. From a tiny little itty bitty fledgling YouTube channel, DanGryder, DTSB.